Hi everyone, and welcome to the Syncretism Society Virtual Academy. And my name is Mehmet. In today's lesson, we're going to be going over a subject called Gematria, or some call it Gematria. The basic concept of Gematria is connecting numbers and letters and giving letters a bit more of a deeper meaning. So basically, each letter has a numerical value. So then once you know this, and then you add up all the letters of particular words or particular syllables, you will see certain connections or certain words and letters that have particular powers and numbers. So obviously, the English alphabet has 26 letters. So the main gematria, there's different types of gematria. You have like Hebrew gematria, Babylonian gematria, Pythagorean gematria, English. The main three that I'm going to be concentrating on today will be obviously English gematria and Pythagorean gematria, which is the same but slightly different, which I'll show you once I get into my slides. And obviously we're going to be touching up on like the ancient Greek and Hebrew, because that's where gematria kind of originates from. The word gematria is the same root word as geometry, which is Greek. So yeah, before I get into my board, which what I've done is I've written down a load of words and worked out their numerical value in the English gematria and the Pythagorean gematria. And I'm going to go through what each word's number is and which sequence it relates to, because some of them relate to the Fibonacci and phi ratio, some of them relate to the triangular number sequence, some of them relate to prime numbers. But before I get into my board, I think it would be best to go into like the basics of the alphabet, like what vowels are, what consonants are, which words are interchangeable. We're going to look at English gematria, Pythagorean gematria, the history of gematria, and also we're going to look up on the basics of, like I said, prime numbers, triangular numbers, the Fibonacci sequence, and also the magic cube and the number 42, which will correlate to one of the words I've put on the board. So what I'll do is I'll go straight into my presentation. So what I'm just going to do is share my screen. So bear with me for a minute. So I'll just get this open, make this full screen, and then I'll go into the main slide. And let me just make this slightly bigger. Oh, I'm at the wrong slide, so we'll start from the beginning. What is gematria? In Hebrew, every letter is given a numerical value, and those values can be added up to achieve a numerical value of a word. While some might think that this is a system of drawing arbitrary connections, practitioners of gematria believe that there is an intentional context to the sounds of the vowels and consonants that we use in language, with an interconnected mathematical meaning. Gematria, the substitution of numbers for letters of the Hebrew alphabet, a favorite method of exegesis used by medieval Kabbalists to derive mystical insights into sacred writings or obtain new interpretations of texts. Some condemned its use as a mere toying with numbers, but others considered it a useful tool, especially with difficult or ambiguous texts otherwise failed to yield satisfactory analysis. In Genesis 28:12, for example, relates that in the dream of Jacob, in a dream, Jacob saw a ladder, in Hebrew, sulam, stretching from earth to heaven. Since the numerical value of the word sulam is 130, 60 plus 30 plus 40, the same numerical value of Sinai, 60 plus 10 plus 50 plus 10, concluded that the law revealed to Moses on Mount Sinai is a man's means of reaching heaven. Of the 22 letters in the Hebrew alphabet, the first 10 are given number values consecutively from 1 to 10. The next 8 from 20 to 90 are intervals of 10, while the final letters equal 100, 200, 300, and 400 respectively. More complicated methods have been used, such as employing squares of numbers or making a letter equivalent to its basic value, plus all numbers preceding it. So what we're going to go into now is understanding what vowels and consonants are. So I'm going to talk about this in relation, obviously, to the English alphabet. So there are 5 vowels in the English alphabet, which is, as you can see here, A, E, I, O, and U. And them particular sounds, when you say them particular sounds from your mouth, you say it in a particular way. So here it says, a vowel is a speech produced by humans when the breath flows out through the mouth without being blocked by the teeth, tongue, or lips. So a short vowel is a short sound in the word cup, and a long vowel is the sound in the word shoe. So as you can see, when you say cup, because of the P, it's a sudden stop. But when you say the word shoe, it goes on for longer. It's more magnetic, whereas cup is more electric. It's a bit more sudden. But when you say the word shoe, you can see that O and E, which are the vowels, they give the word a bit more of an extension. And also, ironically, the word in ancient Egypt for air is shu. And obviously, like I said, when you say shoe, it has more of an airy feeling to it. Whereas when you say cup, it has more of an abrupt stop. So yeah, in the English alphabet, the vowels are A, E, I, O, and U. And according to some Hebrew scholars and some Kabbalistic scholars, they reference the vowels as being connected to the soul and the spirit, and the other letters being connected to the body. So the vowels are considered spiritual, whereas the consonants are just considered material. So moving on, yeah, this is a brief explanation of what a consonant is. One of the speech sound or letters of the alphabet that is not a vowel. Consonants are pronounced by stopping the air flowing easily through the mouth, especially by closing the lips or touching the teeth with the tongue. So yeah, I already explained that by the 2 words that they use as an example of cup and shoe. So moving on, this is an introduction to simple English gematria. Gematria is a Assyrio-Babylonian Greek practice of coding numbers into letters, the words and phrases. It is a branch of numerology, the study of the occult meaning to numbers, and is the most widely attributed to understanding Hebrew scripture. The term most likely derived from the Greek word geometria, which translates to geometry. When certain words have the same gematria values, then it is said to believe that these words share a common meaning. So, for example, 2 words could have the same numerical value. It don't necessarily mean they mean the same thing, but what it suggests is it's been calculated using the same method. Again, according to the Hebrew scriptures and the Kabbalistic view, the numbers so for example, like the word Jesus is 74. So what that alludes to is that God or the universe created 74 powers, used 74 powers to create that word. So that's what gematria is. It's explaining how many powers or how many functions the universe used to create that word. So yeah, so this is what I've got on my board, but I thought I'll show you it on the screen before I get into my board so you have a background. So yeah, there are 26 letters in the English alphabet, and obviously each one is assigned 1 number. So starting with A would be 1 and Z would be 26. And yeah, For example, just to give you like a quick background, like you can see how the letters relate to the number. So B equaling 2 would relate to words like by, both, binary, not to be crude, stuff like buttocks and boobs, because it all relates to two things. And when you say, I'll give you a something, you're usually talking about a single thing. So that's just a quick explanation of how letters are connected to particular numbers. But obviously, I'm going to get into that like a lot more deeper once I go into my board. So yeah, this is simple English gematria. So moving on, I'm going to talk a bit about Pythagorean gematria, which is actually the same as English gematria, but instead of using 1 to 26, they use 1 to 9, and then it goes back to 1. But obviously, I'll show you the diagram so you'll get a clearer idea of what I'm talking about. So an introduction into Pythagorean gematria. Pythagorean gematria is the process of reducing single-digit values. It was popularized by Pythagoras of Samos, an Ionian Greek philosopher mathematician who became the founder and the movement of Pythagoreanism. So let me just move this along. So here it says the following chart is demonstrating how the English alphabet can be reduced to single digit values. So for example, in the English alphabet, J is the number 10. But to get that to a single digit, what you do is you add the two digits together. So obviously 1 and 0 equals 1. So if you can see here, after 9, J, instead of being 10, it goes to 1. And then instead of K being 11, it becomes 2. So that's the only difference. But so if you worked out a word in Pythagorean and gematria, the digital root would be the same in the end, because all it's done is took the double digits of which is in the English alphabet and reduced it to a single digit. So what we're going to do now is just concentrate on a few like numbers that are quite significant in the occult and give you a bit of background on them. So it says here, when you decode letters, words, and phrases, it is important to know that the numbers 11, 22, and 33 are master numbers. According to numerologists, master numbers are extremely powerful. 11 is known as the number of illumination, intuitiveness, and altruism. 22 is referred to the master builder number. People who exhibit this vibration work very well in the business settings. Interestingly enough, the word master has the gematria value of 22. Also, we know from my previous videos that 22 relates to the Hebrew alphabet because there's 22 letters in the Hebrew alphabet, and also the 22 pathways in the tree of life. So 22 is a very, very relevant number in occult studies. So moving on, it says 33 is known as the master number in numerology. These individuals possess an innate desire to help others achieve their goals and aspirations. The word teacher has the gematria value of 33. Let me just move this out of the way. Also, 74 is a very special number to the powers that be. In numerology, the number 7 represents completion, while the number 4 represents foundation. Therefore, the number 74 represents complete foundation. Here are some words that equal 74 in simple English gematria. Perhaps you will notice a pattern. So you can see here, all these words, when added up, each letter, they equal 74. I've got a few on my board that equal 74 as well, which is interesting. But yeah, so 74 reduces to the number 2, which is about balance and duality, ultimately. So moving on, this is just like basic meanings of each numbers 1 to 9, and we're just going to go through them and go through what they mean, and we can see that there's correlation with this and also the zodiac. So the number one's meaning is new beginnings and creation. So this would obviously relate to the signs of Aries and Capricorn. Aries being number 1 and Capricorn being number 10, which would be reduced to 1. Duality, balance, intuition, number 2. So this would relate to Aquarius and Taurus. Number 3, self-expression, creativity, and outcomes. This would relate to Pisces and Gemini. Number 4, foundations, hard work, and pragmatism. This would relate to Cancer. Number 5, change, challenge, freedom, Leo. Number 6, love, harmony, relationships, Virgo. Number 7, withdrawal, contemplation, metaphysics, Libra. 8, prosperity, abundance, manifestation, Scorpio. Number 9, completion, conclusions, and compassion, which would be Sagittarius. So moving on, like I said, so I've got like, well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I've got like 20 words on the board that all the Gematria value all come to different numbers. But when you look up these individual numbers, they are all part of like different sequences. So like some are prime numbers, some are triangular numbers, some are Fibonacci sequence numbers, some are phi ratio numbers. So what I'm going to do first now, let me just move this up, is we're going to understand what a prime number is. So a prime number is a number greater than 1 with only 2 factors, themselves and 1. A prime number cannot be divided by any other numbers without leaving a remainder. An example of a prime number is 13. It can only be divided by 1 and 13. Dividing a prime number by another number results in numbers being left over, e.g., 13 divided by 6 equals 2, leaving a remainder of 1. What are the prime numbers? These are the 8 prime numbers under 20, 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13, 17, and 19. And the first 10 prime numbers are 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13, 17, 19, 23, and 29. And these will be very relevant to when I get to my board. Prime numbers can continue well past 100. For example, 21,577 is a prime number. And these are the list of the prime numbers to 100. So just to like clarify that in simple terms, yeah, a prime number can only be divided and multiplied by 1 in itself. So for example, and nothing can be divided into 7. So you could either have like 7 times 1 or 1 times 7, which equals 7. And the same with 5. You can do 5 times 1 or 1 times 5 equals 5. You can't do 2 times 3 can't equal 5, 2 times 2 can't equal 5. So these numbers can only be divided or multiplied by themselves and 1. So moving on, how do prime numbers work? 13 only has 2 factors, itself and 1, so it is a prime number. Again, yeah, this is just going over what I just said. So moving on, triangular numbers. A triangular number or a triangle number counts objects arranged in an equilateral triangle. Triangular numbers are types of figurate numbers, other examples being square numbers and cube numbers. The triangular number is a number of dots in a triangular arrangement with dots on a side and is equal to the sum of the dots, equal to the sum of the natural numbers from 1 to n. The sequence of triangular numbers starting with the 0 triangular number is 0, 1, 2, 3, 1, sorry about that. 0, 1, 3, 6, 10, 15, 21, 28, 36, etc., etc. So basically, I will show you now an example of what a triangular number is on a diagram so you can get an idea of what I'm talking about. So yeah, this is like what triangular numbers are. They are triangles made with dots, and only certain numbers can produce triangles. And also there is a pattern within the triangle numbers. So for example, you start with one dot, and then the next amount of number which can create a triangle would be three dots, as you can see, and it has two levels. So it's the levels go up each time as well. So here you got one level, here you got two levels. So you got one and then 1, 2. And also what you do is you just, for each one, so for example, this one, to get from 1 to 3, you add 2. To get from 3 to 6, you add 3. To get from 3 to 4, you add 4, because obviously 6 dots to 10 dots is plus 4. So you can see a pattern emerging through each one. So the next one after this, the sixth one would be 21. And then the one after that, the seventh one, would be 28. So moving on, we're going to talk a bit about the Fibonacci sequence. The Fibonacci sequence is the sum of two numbers before it. It goes 0 plus 1 equals 1, 1 plus 1 equals 2, 1 plus 2 equals 3, 3 plus 2 equals 5, 5 plus 8 equals 13, and 8 plus 13 equals 21, and so on to infinity. From this pattern, the Greeks developed the golden ratio to better express the difference between any two numbers in the sequence. What is the golden ratio? Also known as the golden section, golden mean, and divine proportion, or the Greek letter phi, the golden ratio is a special number that approximately equals 1.618. The ratio itself comes from the Fibonacci sequence, a naturally occurring sequence of numbers that can be found everywhere, from the number of leaves on a tree to the shape of a seashell. So yeah, this is just an example of what the Fibonacci sequence is. It creates spirals basically, and it doesn't. The number's not like the binary code where it doubles, where it goes like 1, 2, 4, 8. It's 1 over 1.68. So the first section will be 1, and the second part of the sequence will be 1.68. It's not exactly double, but it's almost double. Yeah, this is the powers of phi here. So you can see, I'll show you a pattern. So for example, if you add 1.61803 plus 2.61802, you then get the next power of phi. So then you get 4.23602. And then the fourth one would be the second power of phi and the third power of phi added together. So 2.61802 plus 4.23602 equals 6.85402. And you can see a number, like there's a pattern there developing just like the Fibonacci sequence. And the 18th power of phi will be relevant when we get to speaking about the number 9 and the words that relate to the number 9. So moving on, lastly, I'm going to talk briefly about the magic cube and the number of 42, which will relate to one word I have on here, which relates to the cube. So basically, the magic cube is based on 3 times 3 times 3, which is 27. So if you get all the numbers from 1 to 27 and you arrange them in a specific way, every way you go, where it's diagonal, down, or across, it will equal the number 42. So for example, if you add 26 plus 13 plus 3, it will equal 42. If you add 26 plus 4 plus 12, it will equal 42. And any which way you go, these numbers will add up to the number 42, which is the digital root of 6, which is the cube. And obviously this also relates to the Rubik's Cube. So yeah, here's another example of the cube. So yeah, again, if you add 22, 11, and 9 equals 42. You add 10, 7, and 22 equals 42. And again, these are just more examples of that pattern. And yeah, this is the number 42 is quite relevant for the film Alice in Wonderland. And the author Lewis Carroll, who wrote Alice in Wonderland, was actually a mathematician, and he was obsessed with the number 42. There are 42 illustrations in Alice in Wonderland, Alice Adventures in Wonderland, Rule 42, in that the same work states all person more than a mile high to leave the court, and the hunting of the snark. The baker has 42 boxes, all carefully packed, with his name painted clearly on each. So now I've given you like a bit of background on like prime numbers, triangular numbers, the Fibonacci sequence, vowels, consonants. What I want to do is I'm going to bring my board forward, and we're going to go through some letters which are interchangeable. We're going to go through what the vowels are, and we're going to go through particular words and their numerical value. And I've made some more notes on some paper, because there's so much that relates to all this. So I'll be reading from my notes on the paper as well. So what I'll do now is I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and let me bring this forward, and hopefully, yep, that'll be, let me just move this. There you go. So as you can see, A equals to 1 and Z equals to 26. So the words that are interchangeable are, which are the vowels, are A, E, I, O, and U. Not interchange. Yeah, they are interchangeable. Yeah, sorry, but they're the vowels. There are also other words that are interchangeable as well, and they're interchangeable by sound, but they're also interchangeable because you can see the numerical values have connections. So, for example, T and D are interchangeable. T is the number 20 and D is the number 4. But obviously 4 is a multiple of 2. So 2 times 2 equals 4. So you can see how D and T have a connection both with sound and with numerologically as well, excuse me. Other letters which are connected are letters like B and V. They are also interchangeable. Again, B is 22, which is 4. No, V is 22, which is 4, and B equals 2. Again, they're multiples of each other. So B being 2 and V being 4 is multiples of the number 2. Other interchangeables are R and L are interchangeable, because you'll notice that in a lot of Asian speaking English people, they they always kind of naturally swap the R and L around. So for example, instead of saying rice, they would say lice, or instead of saying very, they will say veli. And again, I'm not saying this to be, I'm not saying this to make fun or to be racist or anything. It's just, this is just how language works. And there are certain words that are connected and interchangeable. Also, a really interesting thing that I come across is that what you can do is, obviously you can carry this cipher on. So for example, if A is 1 and Z is 26, then the next cipher round, A would then be 27 and B would then be 28. And obviously when you get to G the second time round, it becomes number 33. And obviously we know that in a lot of the Freemason lodges, their symbol of the compass and square has a G in the middle. And that is because it comes to the 33rd letter on the second cycle round. So this is why they use the G. And obviously the 33 relates to the 33 vertebrae and the 33 degrees in the Freemason, lodges or society, however you want to coin it. But also what I noticed that if you multiply, like 26 is the number for the word of God in Hebrew. It's Yod He Vah comes to the number 26. So the number 26 relates to the word of God. And we're going to see that in the other words that I've written down here. But if you double 26, you get 52. And 52 is the amount of weeks in the year, and it's also the amount of cards in the playing deck. And then if you triple 26, you get 78. And 78 is also a very significant number when it comes to the tarot card deck, which is the amount of cards in the tarot deck. So again, you can see a lot of hidden occult wisdom within the alphabet once you just do a bit of calculations and a bit of investigating. So what I want to do, and also, yeah, the word gematria, when added all the numbers up, comes to 74 as well, which was interesting because I showed you on my slide how many numbers came to 74, and they all relate to balance and duality. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start from this side, and then we're going to go through each word or most of the words and kind of just make the connections of the meanings and the numbers. So as you can see, the first word here is Adam. And I need to get my other notes because I made notes on each word which relates to the sequence of which number sequence they belong to. So for example, Adam in English gematria comes to 19. Well, 19 is the 8th prime number, basically. So 19 is a prime number. So a prime number can only be divided by itself and 1. And obviously atom means 1 and a unit. And obviously Adam relates to Mars being the first planet which rules the first sign of Aries. So Adam corresponds to Aries, which is now Adam is Mars, should I say, which rules Aries, which is the first sign. So that's very interesting. Obviously, we know that Adam is interchangeable with the word atom, and atom means a unit. So moving on to the next word here, Satan. In English gematria, Satan is has the value of 55. 55, ironically, is the 10th number in the Fibonacci sequence and the 10th triangular number. And obviously, we know Satan corresponds with Saturn, which rules in the 10th sign of Capricorn. So that's a very interesting syncretism there. And also, like, they both, in the Pythagorean system, they both come to the number 1, and they are both starts, because this one starts the spiritual year of spring in Aries, and this one, Saturn or Satan, starts the secular year in Capricorn of Earth. So moving on to the next word, we have Om. Om means the universe in many of the Eastern philosophies. And again, when you see the digital root of Om, it comes to 1, which is unity or the beginning. But yeah, Om is also a triangular number, and it's the 7th triangular number. So moving on, let me see if I can just bring this up a bit. So yeah, we have Yeah, I showed you a slide how many numbers come to 74, and we have three here. We have Jesus, Mohammed, and Lucifer in English gematria all come to 74, which is the digital root of 2. And like I mentioned before, 2 symbolizes balance, balance and duality. And also, if you look at like the word Lucifer, well, Lucifer is the electromagnetic spectrum, which is redshift, blueshift, which is also about polarity. And if you look at like um, characters like Jesus and Muhammad, they are almost seen as like the second in command after God, because obviously Jesus is God's son, so he would be the next down, and Muhammad is God's prophet. He would be the next down from the number one. So that's also interesting that they correlate with the number 2. The word pineal in English gematria comes to, let me just see if I've got any more notes on that note. Yeah, pineal in English gematria comes to 57, which is the digital root of 3. And we all know that the pineal gland is the third eye. So it's very, very interesting that pineal would amount to the value of number 3 in a digital root. The next word, tetragrammaton, which is the Hebrew and, well, it's Hebrew/Greek. It's the word which means the 4-word name for God. And tetragrammaton in English gematria comes to 166, which when broken down into Pythagorean gematria to a single digit root comes to number 4, and it means the 4-word name for God. So there's so many interesting like correlations. When you start looking into this, you realize that words are just not words. They have a lot more deeper meanings to them. So moving on to this side, we can see the word Eve. Eve in English gematria comes to 32. Obviously, Eve corresponds with even, and 32 is an even number. But when you look at the digital root of 32, 3 and 2, it equals 5. And if we look at all the letters in Eve, they all correspond with the number 5. Because if we look up here, 5 corresponds with E. And in the Roman numerals, the V is a number 5. And when you break down the digital root of 32, it equals 5. And 5 is the pentagram, which is the star of Venus. And Eve correlates with Venus as Adam correlates with Mars. So again, another great connection there. Also, the word Maria comes to the number 42, which I just showed you about the magic cube and 42. And obviously 4 and 2 equals 6. And we know that in the Platonic solids, you need 6 squares to create the Platonic solid of the cube, which relates to the earth element out of the 4 elements. But it's interesting because Maria corresponds with the Virgin Maria, which is Virgo, that the 6th sign, which is an earth sign as well. So that's very, very interesting that Maria, who is the Virgin Mary, which is the 6th sign and is an earth sign, correlates with 6, and the cube correlates with earth, which has 6 sides as well. So yeah, very, very interesting. Here we've got like some God words. Like when I say God words, like archetypes, like we've got Yahweh, Allah, Thor. They all equal the number 7. And also for Thor in English gematria is 61, and 61 is the 18th prime number. And yeah, what else have we got here? I just don't want to make sure I miss anything out. Let me just check my notes. Oh yeah, I've got here also Allah in English Gematria is 34, and 34 is the ninth Fibonacci number. Also, earth correlates, sorry, let me just lift that up. The word earth is 52, which correlates with 7, and number 7 correlates with the G, and from G we get words relating to earth like geography, Gaia, ground. So you can see how earth having the value of number 7 actually correlates with the G, because like I said, we have words like ground, Gaia, geography. Yeah. So moving on, we've got the word God, which comes to number 8, which is very interesting because, like I mentioned before, the Hebrew word for tetragrammaton is Yod He Vah, and that equals to tetragrammaton, which is the 4-word name for God, and that word in gematria, in Jewish gematria, comes to 26, and 26 digital root is 8. But it's interesting that the word God also comes to 26 and has the digital root of 8. And the same with El, which also means God, which is 17, which is 5 plus 12, which equals 17, which equals 8. And this connects to the tetragrammaton because 8 and 4 are multiples of each other. So you can see that tetragrammaton relating to God makes sense because it's just the words of God and El are just doubles of tetragrammaton, which is 4, and God and El equals 8. So then moving on, the last, well, I've got 2, and then I'm going to talk about the vowels right at the end. We've got the words Islam and the sun, which come both to the number of 54. And it's really interesting because the sun and Islam relating to the number 9 is interesting because the actual temperature of the sun is 5778 Kelvin. So when you add 5778, it also equals 9. And also the number 5778 is 5 to the power 18 when rounded up, and also, so it's the 18th phi number. So 18, 1 and 8 also equals 9, which is very, very interesting. And finally, moving on to the vowels, A, E, I, O, U comes to number 33. And obviously we know that 33 is a very, very significant number in occultism. It's the 33 degrees of masonry, and it's about 33 vertebrae inside you. And obviously, if you chant the words, the letters A, E, I, O, U, it's like a meditation, and you can feel the energy going through your 33 vertebrae. So if you say A, E, I, O, U all in one, you do like a meditation, which is I, O, I, O, I, O. So it's very, very interesting that adding up all the vowels together, it comes to 33, which is the digital root of 6. So I hope I made everything clear. I hope you guys really enjoyed this. And if you have any questions, feel free to message me and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. I'm going to leave you with this one. Hopefully it wasn't too confusing for you all. And I look forward to seeing you guys in my next lesson. Peace, love, and blessings. I'm out.